Good afternoon, Washington, D.C. This is Earl Rush with the Straight Up Talk with Earl Rush show. And we have a special guest this evening, this afternoon. Thank you for taking time out of your busy day to join us. Her name is Christina Piedra. She's a model, professional dancer, choreographer, group director, among other things. Beautiful, fabulous young lady, very intelligent, not your run of the mill type lady. There's nothing average about this young lady at all. She's very special. And we're going to ask her some things that I wanted to know about her for a while, and maybe you might know as well. So we're going to bring her on and see if we can catch up with her. Christine, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Hello. How are you?
No?
Thank you for
All
having me.
right.
Very
Yes,
excited to
yes.
be here.
All right. Thank you for taking time out of your hectic schedule because I'm sure it's probably slowed down just a little bit with, the inactivity of with the COVID-19 situation, but I'm still sure you're a very busy young lady, so I appreciate you for taking time out to spend some time with us. Okay.
Thank you.
So, how are you today? You're doing pretty good?
Today's been a little hectic, but I'm good. Happy to be here. Excited for this chat with you.
Okay, that's right. So what happened? You had problems. Tell us about it. Just start it off with how your day's gone so far.
Oh no.
Mm.
Today's been crazy. Something
Okay. Hmm. Okay. So, can you hear me?
So I hear you. But okay, there you are.
Okay.
You're back.
Was I frozen or were you frozen?
Um, it just went black for a second. Like it just
Okay.
got dark and then I saw that it was like floating.
Okay. Okay. All right. So we're good. So you had a crazy day. You had a hard time logging on. You had to use somebody else's phone besides your phone to get on, right?
Yeah, because I also got a new laptop, but it's Microsoft and not Apple, so it wouldn't let me download Chrome. So it was a little bit roadblocks here and there, but we're here. So
We're
I'm
here.
excited to have a good
Okay.
chat with you.
All right.
Finally.
We had a little, and then after that, we had technical difficulties. So it's been rough, but we're finally
Yeah.
here, and we're going to make it through.
There must be
Okay.
something in the moon, Mercury in retrograde or something, because it was tough today.
Okay. All right. So we're going to get straight to the point. I usually do it in chronological order from the beginning to the end. That way I don't skip or miss anything. First of all,
Okay.
where are your parents from, and what's your nationality, and what's your lineage?
So my background is Cuban, 100% from both parents. They were both born in Cuba, as were their parents and their grandparents, and multiple generations back is 100% Cuban on both sides. But I do know that further down in my lineage, there is some Spaniard, Canary Islands, and some British, and I believe also some French. So there's some European down there, but recent generations are all 100% Cuban on both sides. I was born here in the United States in New Jersey, as was my sister and my cousins. We're all first generation here, but 100% Cuban background.
Okay. So I doing some research that you did several types of genres of dance you trained in.
Yes.
Uh, Tell us some of the genres that you trained in, and what ages were you when you started dancing?
So I was quite young. I think I was about 5 years old when I started ballet, and that was what I primarily danced for many years. But I also studied jazz. I did some tap, which I really liked. I did some flamenco and some contemporary lyrical. But my primary focus was in ballet for all that time, and I even made it to on point. So I started training at about 4 or 5, and I think I want to say like 12 years old, 11, maybe 12 is when I got on point. And they make you wait to a certain age because your bones are not fully developed, and it's very strenuous on your feet to be on point shoes. So they typically do make you wait till a certain age to even get on there. So I was very excited to do that, and I did train on point for maybe 2 years, not too long, because I decided to switch over into hip hop, well, cheerleading, but it wasn't the traditional type of cheerleading the way you would imagine it, like pom poms and cheers. It was dance, competitive dance. Hip hop would be the closest thing to the genre, but it did have some stunting. It was very athletic. Like we would, throw the girls in the air. If you've ever seen ESPN collegiate competitions, they're very popular now. If you're big into Netflix, there's that movie called Cheer, which was really big with Monica Aldama, I think her name is. She's the coach of this team, and it blew up all over social media because they are the best team, and they're the small little school in Texas. But in any case, it's something like that. I mean, not to that level because collegiate has guys, so they can do so much more because they have men. We were all girls, but we did stunts and things like that. That type of look of cheerleading. So we called it the cheerleading team, but it really wasn't cheerleading. It was more dancing than anything else with the stunts. And it was a big departure from what I had been doing. Like think like ballet and this, two opposite, complete opposite sides of the spectrum. But these things definitely prepared me for salsa because ballet was such technical, lines and elegance and very, I don't want to say rigid, but very structured.
Right.
And hip hop is the whole other side. Like that's where you're loose and it's body movement and it's isolation and it's completely the opposite. And having training in both, I think is really what created a strong setup for me to do well in Latin because you need both. You need the technical and you need the looseness and the body movement and the ISO. And I had plenty of experience and training in both things before I even took my first salsa step.
Okay. Okay. All right. So you're basically into dance.
Yes, very much.
so when you were growing up, you were a little taller than the average young lady. So did you run into any difficulties for being a tall young lady when you were growing up?
Yeah, that was something that was hard for me growing up because I was almost as tall as I am now back then at 13. So I felt very awkward, like I was that typical, um, textbook story of like the ugly duckling type of thing. And not that I thought I was ugly, but I just felt so awkward. Like I wasn't like feel comfortable in my skin. And it was because I was so much taller than all the girls, and I was usually the one at the back of the line and all that stuff. And I felt comfortable in ballet. That was like my safe haven because it was not in school. It wasn't the kids from school. When I was in school, I was like the nerdy girl, and and I'm proud of that now. But like, because I'm a bookworm by nature, like I love reading, studying. I was very much a bookworm, and I was valedictorian of my high school class, and I went to college on a full scholarship. I went to Montclair State University, but I was offered full scholarships and partial scholarships to several universities. I chose that one because it was close to home and I wanted to commute. But I worked very hard to get that full scholarship because I didn't want my parents to have to pay for school for me. Like that was a goal for me to get a full scholarship so that they wouldn't have to spend that money for all the money they had spent on my schooling up to that point. They had sent me to Catholic school. That was important to them. And they came here with little to nothing, from Cuba and worked their way into decent jobs, but it was still really hard to do the things they did for me and my sister. So my goal was to not have to have them spend any more money on me. And I was very proud to achieve that. But back to your initial point, I did focus a lot on school because that's where I felt comfortable. I didn't feel comfortable with my height and my body. And I actually used to come home and cry to my dad because he was 6'2".
Oh,
He passed away some years ago, but many years ago now. Wow, it feels like yesterday. But I would tell him, why did you make me so tall? And he would say, well, I'm sorry, because he would feel bad that I was crying, but he would always say to me, listen, you don't like it now, but you'll like it later. Trust me, you'll like it later.
there you
And he
go.
was right. I
Yeah.
just felt very uncomfortable at the time, and I wanted to get into something that would make me feel more comfortable or make me kind of be in with the cool kids, and that was where the cheerleading came in. Like, I always looked at those girls like, wow, they're so amazing, and our team was quite good. We were national champions for many years, and we were a very well known and respected team. And I knew that because this was my school team, so we all knew like they were very much respected, and I never thought I would be able to be a part of that. And the only reason that I went to the audition that year was because my best friend at the time wanted to try out, and she asked me to come in for moral support, and I went, not having any expectation of anything. And I guess because of the dance background that I had, I stood out to my coach, and she invited me onto the team. Actually, my best friend didn't make it. This actually ended our friendship because she got mad at me.
Oh, wow.
She got mad at me that I went on the team when I was just there. And I told her, like, I really was here just for you. I wasn't expecting to get this offer. It was crazy. But when I did get the offer, I couldn't turn it down, because it was something I never thought could happen. And I was so excited to have this opportunity. And I ended up having to choose between that and ballet, because the time commitment of my ballet classes almost every night, and cheerleading literally every night, and the rehearsals were long and tedious. Like, I'm talking like at least 3 hours, and for a 13-year-old, this is a lot of time. So I had to
Yeah,
choose. And my parents too, like, they had to drive me to all this stuff, right? So, like,
right.
it was a lot. So I had to choose, and my family was not very happy with my choice of cheerleading. They wanted me to stick with ballet, but I know I made the right choice, because being on that team really helped me get a really strong sense of self-confidence, and um, just see that I was capable of much more than I thought. And it really changed my life. And anytime I get to say this about my coach, her name is Mary Morrell. She actually has a school in Hackensack now. She got her own building, and she trains a ton of girls. She has multiple teams now and teaches gymnastics. And I respect her so much, because I honestly believe did help change my life. Like, her faith in me and her confidence in me when I didn't have that much of it on my own truly was life changing. And I found a whole new confidence that carried on and really been big. I think you froze. No, that you were.
If I freeze and you're talking, just keep talking.
Okay. So
Okay.
yeah, I do have a little story about that as well, about the cheerleading team. When I got on, a lot of the girls were confused about it. Like, well, what's she doing here? Like, they didn't know that I had a dance background. They just knew me as like the bookworm girl. So it was weird for them. And my coach was very like sure of me. Like, and it was, again, like, I feel like those years of my life were like a Hallmark movie. Like, it looked like something out of a Hallmark movie, because it's so, like, it sounds like a stereotype, like, so like cheesy, but it's this is really how it went. Like, I was that girl that was like, I feel awkward, and my coach was like, no, like, stand tall, you're beautiful, your height is beautiful, like, you need to believe in yourself. And she did push me till I got there myself. And there was one performance, a really big, like, halftime show at one of our like big games. At the time, we we did cheer for games because we were in junior high. Once we got into high school, we were an all-star team, because all the girls went to different high schools, so we didn't cheer for a specific school. But at that time when I started, we did um, cheer for St. Augustine's. By the way, that's the name of the team, St. Augustine Rams, and they still exist. She still coaches them. um, and so we had some big event, some big game, and we were working on the routine, and this was like the one of the first things I did with the team. And I remember she put me front and center, and I was even shocked, because I'm like, oh my God, this was a lot of pressure. Like, I didn't want to mess up. It was my first big show. And all the girls were like, what, why are you putting her there? Like, she's new. Not to mention, like, she's blocking us. She's too tall. You can't see me. And I felt really, I felt like uncomfortable. And my coach's response, although I can't remember verbatim, was something to the effect of like, no, that's exactly why I'm putting her there, because she's so tall, because she gets attention, because she's going to drive this number. And I put her there for a reason. It's because I want her there because
Right.
she's tall. And like that, those moments were the ones that were like, okay, yeah, like this is not a bad thing. Like, this woman believes in me. I gotta like do this for her. And it just got better from there. And now those girls are my sisters. Like, we still keep in touch. We recently got together for my coach's 50th birthday this summer,
Wow. Wow.
August. Yeah, and we got together. Some of us hadn't seen each other in years. It was a little difficult with COVID, and we had to kind of be a little, how it is. But it was so good to see them, and we still keep in touch. Like, we really are like family. So it's
Wow.
nice. It's nice. Even after all these years, we still keep in touch, and we try to get together every now and then.
Okay. So we we did a lot of dancing and cheerleading, changed our lives,
Yes.
made us believe in ourselves, instilled the competitive nature in us. So now we're going to college. What is it that we wanted to take up? What is it that you took up in college?
Yeah, so I did the competitive cheer all through high school. As I mentioned, we weren't a team for a specific school, so we didn't really cheer for sports. We didn't go to games. We just competed, and we competed almost every weekend, all over the state. We even competed nationally. We were, as I mentioned, national champions many times. Fun little tidbit: I had the record one year for the most toe touches of anyone. And toe touches, in case you guys don't know, is like that jump in the air where you do like a side split, like a Russian split in the air. And there was this was the national competition in Busch Gardens, Virginia, with hundreds of teams from all over the world. And one of their cheerleaders, like the ones representing the event, did, I don't know what she did, like 20. And my coach knew that this was my strength. My strength was jumping, and I was great at jumps. It was my thing because I have these long legs. So when I jumped, it was like, the legs would go up, and I had flexibility from ballet. So jumping was my thing. And I could do a whole bunch in a row. I could do whatever, a lot. So this girl got on stage, did like 20, and my coach yelled, my girl can do more than that. She put me, and I was shy. Like, I'm telling you, like,
Mhm.
I was, still am. I'm actually a shy girl at heart. Put me on the stage to battle this girl. And I mean, when it comes down to it, yes, the competitive edge will come out. She did 21 or something, and I did 25. And so, I spent my high school, other than school, which was my main thing, my whole high school career, I spent it competing. In college, I didn't do any dance or cheerleading. Well, I didn't audition for any cheer team because there weren't any really at that level around here. I would have had to go to another school, kind of like this the school in cheer in the movie. Like, there's so many schools that have great teams, but I went to there for this full scholarship, and because it was local. And Montclair, I don't even think they had a cheerleader. I don't know. If they did, they weren't good, right? So like, I didn't do any cheerleading in college, and I didn't do any dancing at all. I
Okay.
when I think I was or the end of my senior year is when I started salsa. So for the first 2 years of college, in timeline, friends, and like I didn't do a whole lot of social stuff. Like, I was just with my boyfriend at the time and school. And I was committed to keeping this scholarship because you have to maintain. I think it was a 3.5 to keep the scholarship. So that was just my 100% focus. I had a I had a major and a minor, and I did, once again, bookworm, classic bookworm girl. I did well, and I graduated summa cum laude with a 4.0. So
Wow.
this was, yeah, I was, yeah, college was all about school, but I'm very happy I did that, and I loved it. Like, I loved college. I loved being in
Mhm.
class. I loved
Mhm.
school. I love it. I actually wanted to
Mhm.
go for my master's, and I never did because I got so wrapped up in salsa, which is where we're going now, I'm sure. And
Mhm.
it's one of those things that, like, I wish I had done. It just didn't, like, it didn't work out. But I actually love being in school. I enjoy school, and I don't mind homework. I don't mind papers. I like that stuff.
Okay.
So yeah,
What
didn't
was your
dance at all,
major in?
and then
What was your
what's that?
major in? What did you major in college?
What did I major in? Communications, because I majored in communications. I minored in journalism. At the time, my plan was to be a journalist. I enjoyed reading. I liked current events. I like being in front of a camera, hence the modeling and dancing and stuff like this. I felt comfortable in front of a camera. And I liked the whole, like, just the whole industry of it. I did a few internships with NBC. I was an intern on The View. I worked with Barbara Walters. I
Hmm.
loved it. So that was my goal. I did some internships with magazines as well. I wasn't sure if I wanted to do print or TV,
Hmm.
but I ended up as a professional dancer. Like, this wasn't my goal at all. I always loved
Right.
dancing, and I always knew dance would be a part of my life somehow, but I
Hmm.
never had it as a goal, as a career. And
Right.
that's just how life played out, but it wasn't what I thought. Like, it wasn't my goal.
Okay. So we're a senior in college. We're at our first salsa event. Tell us about it.
So my best friend, and she still is my best friend. We call each other sisters because we went to kindergarten together. Her background is Cuban too, and
Hmm.
even though we don't, you know how, like, people say, you always have those friends that you don't really get to talk to all the time. Like, you don't speak to on the regular, but when you do catch up every now and then, it's just like you just pick up right where you left off. Like, this is that friend for me. She and I have very different lives. So we don't talk like every day or even every week, but we've been in touch our whole life. We literally went to kindergarten together. We went to grammar school together. We went to high school together, and not college, but we've been friends forever. So she is a beautiful human, a wonderful soul, but not coordinated and not a good dancer. And
Okay.
so she started taking dance lessons with Juan, and just did that on her own. Like, I didn't know about it.
Okay.
And whatever. So she started doing salsa. One day we go to the culpa, whichever location it was back then. Who knows? It's been like 10 locations, right? So we go to the culpa, and she was with her boyfriend at the time. She starts dancing salsa with him, and I'm
Hmm.
looking at her like,
Mm.
what? Like, how are you, again, but not coordinated. Like, she's never been a dancer, like, never.
Right.
So I was amazed. Like, I was literally amazed at how she was dancing salsa. And afterwards I was like, okay, where did you go? Whoever taught you that and got you to dance like that, I need to go there, because I'm sure that I'll be great. I'm actually a dancer. Like, if you can look like that, I know there's hope for me. So I was like, take wherever you went, take me there. And she took me to Juan. That's how I met Juan. She took me to
Wow.
Juan's class, and I had seen salsa dancers before.
Hmm.
I'm gonna go out here, and I'm just go out and say, I'm gonna say the name, Irene Otero, who I love. I have a lot of respect for Ismael and Irene. Back in the day, Caribbean Soul and Culture Explosion were like the rivals, and everybody thought, we hated each other. We didn't. It was just whatever. It was like West Side Story. It was cute and fun, but we never
Right.
hated each other. But we have nothing but respect for each other. There was a period of time before my time that I think there was a little something going on, but
Hmm.
it's been nothing but love, and I respect them immensely. And I remember seeing Irene dancing one night at the Copa as well. Not the same night that I went with my girl. Another
Hmm.
night, and her and Ismael were performing, and I don't know what I was watching, because I wasn't into that. Like, even though I'm Cuban, I had never done salsa or anything like that. Even in my house, we didn't really listen to a whole lot of salsa. My family played boleros, and they listened to like romance songs. Like, it was very like, it wasn't your typical Latin household with salsa playing all the time. It wasn't really like that in my house. So I didn't grow up with a whole lot of salsa music, honestly. And so of course I knew of it, and I speak Spanish fluently. I write it. It's been there in my life, but it wasn't a big part of my life. And so I go that night, and I see Irene dancing, and I thought, wow, this is amazing. Like, holy cow. And I've told her this, so she knows. I told her that she was one of the people that inspired me to learn salsa, because whatever I saw that night was looked like so amazing, and I couldn't believe like what I was seeing, and I'm like, wow, I would love to learn that. But it just,
Mhm.
I forgot about it. And then, months later, I go with my friend and she's dancing, and that's when I said, okay, I need to learn this. Like I in my mind, it was this impossibly difficult dance that like there's no way I could ever do that type of thing. Like it looked so impossibly difficult when I saw Irene do that performance. It looked like this is never happening for me. And then seeing my friend dance made me think, okay, maybe I can learn this. She took me to Juan's class. That night it was at the Red Parrot in Elizabeth. We taught there for years in Elizabeth. Our primary city was Elizabeth, New Jersey, and everybody that ever took classes with Cultural Explosion, they know that.
Mhm.
So I went there as a student. Again, another literally was that clueless. And I jumped into the class. That was my first. I just didn't know it at the time. Was doing this for fun, but I knew I loved it. Like I got hooked night one. Hooked night one.
Wow. Okay. So, how did you end up becoming a member of Cultural Explosion? I mean, just by from the classes, it stemmed from there. Or?
Yeah, yeah. So Juan would invite people that he thought had potential. At the time, we didn't do auditions. That started later. This was, we're OGs, right? So back in the day, people would just invite people onto the teams. You didn't audition. That's like a new thing, relatively
Right.
new, you know. So he just invited me. Like he saw that I had some formal training, and Juan has always been big on ballerinas, he calls them, women with formal training. He likes that, he seeks that out. So he saw that I had some classical training, and this was maybe 6 months I had been taking classes, maybe if that.
Mm-hmm.
And he invited me to come on the team because they were training to go to Puerto Rico, to the Puerto Rico Salsa Congress
Mm-hmm.
in San Juan, with Eli Irizarry. And that was my first big Congress show, the Puerto Rico Congress back then. That Congress was huge. Like it was like I went there and was again jaw dropped. Like, oh my God, what have I gotten myself into? Like this was amazing to me. I remember Fernando Sosa. Like I danced with Fernando Sosa, and like Fernando Sosa is another one that I have so much respect for. Like I think he's one of the best male dancers alive right now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I remember him back then. He had just started. Like
Okay.
it's crazy, but yeah, that was my first big show. And shortly after that, or during that time rather, Juan also asked me to start teaching, and he
Okay.
needed some help with teaching, and I started teaching. And this was just, help him out type of thing. Okay, I'll
Right.
teach a little bit here and there. Did not know what it was going to become.
Okay. And so, I would imagine during this time you were working at one time or another in a real life job. So,
Yes.
what made you decide to leave a 9 to 5 to just say this is what I'm going to do?
Yeah, so I, like most people, I graduated with a degree and didn't use it. So I got a job in IT recruiting, and this is another funny story. I got tons of them, Earl. We
You're
could be
right.
here all day.
It's all right.
I saw this. I went to a career fair, and I saw this table with this my boss, who she was going to become my boss. She was at this table promoting for the career fair, and the table said public relations, advertising, I forget what else. And I thought, oh great, this is what I want to do, because I had kind of deviated a little bit away from the broadcast journalism, and then thought I want to try my hand in like advertising or public relations or something like this. And my degree was communication, so it encompassed all of that, right?
Okay.
even though my minor was journalism, but my communications degree was all of that. And I was like, I want to start with this. I want to try this because journalism is tough to break into. So went to this career fair, saw this table that said all these things, all these keywords of what I was looking for. I interviewed, got the job. Kid you not, I thought this was the job I was getting, something in advertising or public relations. It was not. It was recruiting. It had nothing to do with like nothing at all, right? And once I was in it, I was like, okay, this is not what I thought I was signing up for, but okay. So I did it, and actually, it was a sales job. At the end of the day, it's a sales job, and it required taking people out to lunch and kind of schmoozing them and getting to know them and placing them in a better job, hopefully a better job, better environment, more money, things like this. I'm a people person, like I'm comfortable getting to know people. I think I have a good read on people and can kind of like just feel their energy and like feel where they're at. And I'm just intuitive in that way. So I was pretty good at this, even though I know nothing of IT. I mean, clearly, as we were going back this morning, technical stuff is not my thing. So ironically, my first job was I was a technical recruiter. This girl who can't even like, my phone is crapped out. Like, go figure. The ironies of life. So I was a technical recruiter, no idea what was going on with the technology stuff, but I was placing these guys. They're usually, well, I specialized in networking, and it
Mm-hmm.
tended to be like young guys. So they were like cool, and we would have fun, and it was like a fun job. And I made a lot of money. Like I did really well in those first 2 years. Made a lot of money. I was able to buy my first car, which was a Volkswagen Passat. Like paid half of it cash down, and like for how young I was, because what I had just graduated college. I was like 21. It
Mm-hmm.
was a lot of money for 21.
Right.
Um, and so things were great until 9/11. And then, you know, nobody was hiring recruiters anymore. Like, they just, the economy crashed. And, needless to say, it just, everything changed. Stuff, it was rough. So then the business was rough. I wasn't doing so well anymore. And I was taking salsa classes still all the time. And it was my stress relief. And I know it is that for so many people. And that's why now being on the other side as an instructor for all these years, I really understand and value that. And I know I want to give people that happy, like joyous experience, because it's what helped me when I was going through the stress as in my job. And I know that's what people, a lot of the main reasons what people come to dance for, to get that stress release and get that escape. So I was doing that all the time, but I wasn't thinking I was going to leave my job. I was doing really well in my job. Once things started kind of getting messed up with the situation, um, my boss, she could sense that I was very unhappy. And I'm not someone that quits. Like, I don't like to walk away from things, is situations, people. I always say that like things end on the other side. Like, something ends because it ends, and then I'm forced to walk away. Or relationships end because they give up on me. Like, I don't like on anything. It's almost to a fault, because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes there's situations that I should give up on and I don't, because it's not in me. So I don't think I would have quit this job. I would have just stayed there. Then I was kind of miserable at this point, because it went from so amazing to really bad. And my boss, she used to dance. Like, she had a dance background, and she knew how much I loved dancing, and we were pretty cool. Like, she was like really really sweet and really cool. I've been lucky with people like that. Like, with key people in my life being amazing. I've been blessed with that. She was really cool, and she's like, I know you're not happy here, and I know you'd rather be dancing, and I also know that you're not going to quit, because you just won't. So I'm going to let you go.
Mm.
And even though this is like I'm firing you, I'm not really firing you, because if you want to come back, the door is open to you. But I'm going to encourage you to go, pursue your dancing, do your thing. And if you want to come back, you come back. It's here for you. But I don't think that you're going to do this on your own. So I'm going to kind of like open the door for you and tell you to go. And that was what I needed, because I wouldn't have quit.
Okay.
And I
Well,
love her too. Like, she's another one that I have nothing but great things to say about. And her doing that was exactly what I needed, because now I was jobless. And so Juan was looking for a partner. For those of you that know Juan's background and his history, his partner was Diana at the time, and she had moved away and things had gone on. And so she was no longer able to be his partner. She was living in Florida, and they had split as a partnership. So he was looking for a partner, and he was considering different people, including Sonia from La Luna, who I love, another woman that I respect and adore. Like,
Mm-hmm.
there's a theme here, and it's girl power, and I'm really big on like women that are like bosses and are confident and are strong, and like these are the women that have influenced me. And Sonia is someone I've always looked up to for her
Yes.
business skills. Like, she's amazing, right? So at that time, she had just crossed into salsa. She was a ballroom dancer, and she had just crossed into salsa, and Juan was considering her as a partner amongst other people. And so he wasn't considering me. Like, I hadn't been dancing salsa long at all. I wasn't
Right.
on the radar. But because I lost my job, he wanted to help me out. And he said, you know what? Why don't you train with me? And we'll start doing gigs together, and you'll teach more, and at least you'll have some income while you figure out what you're doing with your career, right? So it was supposed to be a temporary thing, and here I am. Like,
Wow.
I never went back to anything else. I loved it so much. I love, like, my sister says that I'm a free spirit. She's always called me that, and I think she's right. Like, there's something in me that doesn't like too much structure. Like, although I'm super organized, like, this is such a juxtaposition, and it's like so weird. It's a paradox. I'm super organized, and people love that about me on the teams. Like, they say that I'm the most organized director they've ever met, and they've never seen such organization from anyone, and people love that. But at
Mm-hmm.
the same time, I also like spontaneity and freedom and not having too many schedules. So
Okay.
I loved the dance life because of that. Because it wasn't 9 to 5 every day. Go here, do the same thing. I liked not having that. That every day was different, and every day was a new experience, and I didn't know what it was going to be, and that's what I loved about it. Of course, I love dancing. Like, dance alone is like in my heart. Like, it's just who I am. But as far as like a career, that was the thing that I loved the most about it. That it just allowed me to feel like I had a different experience every day, and it wasn't like the daily grind. And I could never go back. Like, even though I did get some opportunities that came up later for other recruiting jobs or other things, I didn't want it because after experiencing the dance career, I couldn't go back to like being in an office every day. It just, the idea of it was just like suffocating.
Right. I got you. So you talked about leading dance groups. What groups are you directing currently, and how many have you been involved with at one time or another?
I with Juan, we had a bunch of teams. Like, we had our student team, our semi-pro. We had, of course, CX Pro, which was our traveling team, and that's how I met you and so many other people that I've been friends with for so long now. Um, and we also had a choreography class, which that's what we called it, but it was essentially a student, like, the building block to the student team. So at any given time, we had about 4 teams, and we would put together theater shows. And these were full on productions. We did 4 of them, I believe. And I would pretty much choreograph this entire thing with Juan's help and other people's help. But I was the artistic director, and I did so much choreography. I can't even tell you. Like, people don't even know, because unless you're in Jersey, you wouldn't know the amount of choreography that I did. But yeah, so it was about 4 teams. But then we started doing Island Touch. And so we picked up the Island Touch team. And I also had a lady styling team. I forgot about that. I always, at one point, I had like 20 girls. I had such a huge lady styling team. Like, before lady styling was kind of like in and like super trendy like it is now, I had the ladies team. And it was a big thing. Like, we did a lot. We called them Bomba Girls, La Bomba Girls, because bomb for cultural explosion, play on
Mhm.
words. So, yeah, the 4 teams plus the ladies team was 5, plus Island Touch was 6. At one point, when there was a crossover between CX and Island Touch, and I had picked up Salsa Touch, it was like 8 or 9 teams, like at its highest point.
Wow.
Then I stopped doing the student team and the semi pro for CX, and I just focused on the pro and the Island Touch teams. But then I added Latin Soul because I started working with Adolfo in Dacochea, and I
Hmm.
really liked his style. And up until that point, our salsa choreographies, although we did mostly always perform on two, I wouldn't call them like straight mambo. Like, it wasn't. We didn't do that. We did our own style. We had a very distinct style, and again, people that were fans of ours or that followed us, they knew we had a unique like fusion-ish style, and the timing was on too, but it wasn't mambo, right? So like that was something I always liked and I always appreciated, but I never had done like a whole lot of it. So it intrigued me to train in that style, and that's why I picked up Latin soul. I had pretty good experience in Afro-Cuban and in those type of dances, and I love that. And
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of that involved in Adolfo style, so I like that. But I hadn't done too much of the other stuff like the pachanga and things like this. I just recently started getting into those things, and I love it. And I've put a lot of training and time into it. And so that's what I'm doing now, that style of mambo.
Okay.
Back then in the day, we were doing a different style. It was like our own thing. And, if you recall, we used to do a lot of themes and
Right.
like crazy things. So this is what we were known for. Um, Very technical routines, lots of like tricks and lots of like stunts, and we always had like kicks and splits, and we were doing that stuff probably before a lot of other teams were, honestly.
Yeah.
A lot of the LA teams were doing it, but not the East Coast teams. We were one of the first East
Exactly.
Coast teams to do all that stuff.
Exactly.
So we were kind of like an interesting mix of like LA style with onto timing.
Mm-hmm.
It was unique.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but now I'm doing Adolfo stuff. I love it. It's a departure from what I was doing, but I totally welcome learning new things and doing new things, and using my expertise in Afro-Cuban and all these other dances and putting it into mambo. And I do think, instructors should always be pushing themselves to do different things and train, but make sure that you have the expertise to back it up, because I think,
Right.
and this is going to be a tangent, but people shouldn't be teaching things that they're not
Oh.
solid on,
Yeah.
but that's a whole other conversation, right? But
Yeah. Yeah.
we could, yeah, that's a lot. But yeah, when there was a crossover of like my teams with the franchise teams, I was doing a lot. Now I'm
Mm-hmm.
I'm not doing CX at all. I do hope to get back to it, so I haven't written it off like forever. But Juan, he had gone to do his own thing a long time ago, and I had Ariel
Mm-hmm.
as my dance partner, and he moved to
Mm-hmm.
London for work about a
Okay.
year ago. And when that happened, I just put a pause on Culture Explosion altogether. So I've been
Right.
focused on my touch teams and my Latin Soul teams. I have shines and partner work for both. So I currently have 4 teams. I
Mm-hmm.
do want to bring back Culture Explosion in some way, shape, or form, and I
Mm-hmm.
do want to have a lady styling team again. So those things are still on the horizon, but because of the current situation of the world, it's not the ideal time to like bring
Right.
back more things. So it's
Right.
it's on hold indefinitely, but I do hope for it to come back at some point.
Okay. That's beautiful. So as you said, we've known each other for a long, long time.
Yes, we
But
have.
when we were coming up, as you know, when you were coming to the stucco salsa parties, the early ones, we didn't even play any bachata. It was like nothing but salsa. But you,
Yes.
along with a lot of other instructors, made the move when bachata got huge. You
Yep.
went from teaching salsa to bachata like it was no problem. I think that's because you are a dancer. But how did you feel about that? I mean, you love bachata now, but in the first, how did you feel during the transformation from salsa and also doing bachata?
That's a good question. I honestly wasn't a big fan of bachata initially. Like bachata was, as and was we have our days back at the Stardust, right? Whenever they would play bachata, which was very little, we would sit down. That was our break.
Right,
Like we were like, oh, okay, time to go get some water. It's bachata. Nobody danced bachata.
right.
And the reason why I wanted to do touch again, I because I love to pay respects when I think it's due, and I give people credit when it's due, is because I really respect George and Tanya for putting bachata on the map. Like that routine. I was in the audience in Orlando when they performed it at the Congress,
Mhm,
and it blew
mhm.
up. That 1 million views,
Yeah.
routine, whatever. Now it's not. Now it's more than 1 million. Whatever it is now, 6 million. Maybe I
Yeah,
don't know.
yeah.
That routine, I was there when
Uh-huh,
they did it, and I remember and Juan was next to me. We were watching, and we were like, "This is gonna change the game.
uh-huh.
This that happened right now is
Mm-hmm.
the game changer." Because
Yeah.
the way people reacted to that, you couldn't have predicted that reaction because people weren't really into bachata,
Right.
and they did transform that, and that's why I respect them and why I like working with them, because I do see them as pioneers.
Oh, no question.
And even, yeah, sorry.
No question they're pioneers of
Yeah,
it.
yeah, and they made it mainstream, right? So like, whatever, some people can say, oh, it's not real bachata, but it's this or whatever. It's all subjective, and that's fine. But at the end of the day, they put bachata on the Congress stage and they made it an international genre, and it wasn't until that point. So
Exactly.
for me, I wasn't really into it. Like I didn't dislike it. It was like, I didn't dislike it, but I didn't care for it. And I
Right.
like, I started like, if I don't feel connected and I don't, I need to genuinely feel, like when they say feel the music, that's actually the Island Touch motto, feel the music. I
Right.
have to feel it, right? That hasn't happened to me quite yet with, say, like Zouk. Like, I think it's beautiful, and when I see good pros do Zouk, I think it's beautiful. But it
Mhm.
hasn't like hit me in that sense where I'm like craving to do it. So although I can do it, I can follow it. I'm not an expert in it, so I won't teach it. And I'm not like,
Right.
I take that very seriously. Like, that
Hmm.
whole thing. Like, if you don't know how to lead and follow the dance, the fact that you can follow and get by does not qualify you for an instructor. So you need to
Hmm.
lead and follow and know the mechanics from both sides, in my opinion, to
Hmm.
legitimately teach a dance. So when I decided that I wanted to teach bachata, that's what I did. I learned to lead and follow it the same way that I did with salsa. I can lead salsa. Are there better leaders than me? Absolutely. But I'm strong enough to understand the mechanics from a leader point of view, which makes me a good instructor, even as a follow. So I think that's important. Like, you have to understand both sides to teach it effectively. So I got into bachata at that point. I started really feeling the dance, and then I learned to lead and follow it. And there are things that have crossed over. There's certain salsa steps that you can see in bachata nowadays, but it is its own dance, and I think it's important to honor that. And it should look like bachata, whatever style you're doing,
Hmm.
traditional, sensual, whatever it is. You should be able to tell this is more or less what it is. I think sometimes people, their bachata looks too much like salsa, and then you can't really tell. Like, if the music wasn't playing, you wouldn't be able to tell what they're doing, right?
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
it's important to honor that. I do think, and this is going to be maybe a little controversial, but I do think it's easier to go from solid knowledge in salsa to bachata than vice versa. So like, I know that's controversial. Am I saying it's impossible? No. I'm just saying I think it's easier. So like, salsa, it's a difficult dance, right? It's not that easy to learn, especially if you've never I think part of the attraction to bachata is that it is more beginner friendly. So it's kind of more inclusive in the sense that you can get good faster, and that is
Hmm.
attractive to people.
Yeah.
Now, does that mean that I'm not trying to say that it's an easier dance, it's not as good, I'm not saying that. But absolutely, I do think a beginner, like, this beginner with no dance knowledge, give them bachata, give them salsa, the average person will move quicker on the scale in bachata than they will in salsa. Salsa is not easy. But that being said, you still have to honor that bachata is its own dance and it shouldn't look like salsa, right? So I did work hard to train in the touch style, learn other styles. I took a lot of workshops. Again, training is just very important. And I did do some sensual, I didn't mention it earlier. I can't believe I forgot. I directed Daniel and Desiree teams for like 2 years. I did some of their routines, and it was because, again, I respect them as pioneers. People can say
Right.
whatever they want to say about them, and that's neither here nor there. but they are pioneers. I know they're not the creators, right?
Mhm.
But they did make this very, very famous. And a lot of people, when they think about sensuad, they think about Daniel and Desiree. Like most people don't even know, that they didn't create it, right?
Right.
So I think that they deserve credit for that, and I respect them for what they've done. And when that time came that people were asking me about this, well, I was like, you know what, I want to do this, I want to learn this, and I want to
Mhm.
improve, because I had some knowledge. Some would argue, I mean, you put up a post when we were doing sensuad in that video that we had doing bachata. Do you remember?
Mhm. Mhm.
So like some people would say that Juan and I were doing sensuad before it was a thing, because we did kind of dance bachata in this way. Like it didn't have that name at that time. But when we did
Right.
our bachata choreographies, we incorporated a
Mhm.
lot of this like lifts and technical stuff and like body movement and dance poses that is now a lot of the key elements of sensuad. And but it didn't exist back then. But we were
Right.
kind of doing it already. You know what I mean?
Of course. Of
So
course.
like I feel like I have already been dancing sensual in a way.
Right.
So it wasn't that hard for me to pick up. Now, am I an expert, like super high level expert? I would not say that. If I had to say my strongest dances for sure are salsa mambo, and then and bachata. Those are my dances. Do I consider myself a master level? Yes.
Mhm.
Sensual, I wouldn't say, I wouldn't say that, but I feel very strong in it
Mhm.
because of what I told you, because I was already doing it years ago.
Right.
So I enjoyed it, and I directed those teams for some time. It's not as popular around here, not yet. In New York it is, but in
Mhm.
Jersey it's not as popular. We definitely have a big showing for touch, and people love it, and that's my biggest team, is
Okay.
is the is the touch team.
All right. So, what was your biggest stucco salsa party that you attended? Did you go on a cruise with us one year, or
I did. I think I went
2000?
more than 1 year.
Oh, tell us
So
about that.
yeah, like that's where I met Tracy. I met Kelvin. Like a lot of you guys that I still talk to. Like you guys, I love you guys. Like for real. You know what I can say about all of you that I met back then that I'm still in touch with? Like Tracy is amazing. He's always giving me love on all my pictures. I haven't talked to Kelvin in a minute, but whenever I see him, same. He always does this like hula hoop. He says hello to me with a hula hoop. Like
Hmm.
what I have to say is that the energy that you guys give off, like your spirit, high energy, super like just happy, positive energy that I always got from you guys. I mean, I have nothing but like good things to say, because that's what I always felt whenever I saw any one of you. Like just happy, cheerful, bright energy. And I love that. Like I think people need to be surrounding themselves with people like that, because it brings you that. It's it snowballs. And if you surround yourself with too much of the opposite of negative people with bad energy, then you start to become that, right? So I totally try to surround myself with positive people. I think it's so important. And that was the main thing that I remember about all of you guys. It was a great time. Like nothing but laughs all the time.
There you go. Now, your first time at the New York Salsa Congress, one of the biggest congresses in the world.
Yep.
Go through it. How did you feel your first time appearing at the New York Salsa Congress?
I was so nervous. I remember the first okay, my memory isn't great with like name like things like this, but I think it was called the East Coast Congress back then.
Okay.
Before it was the New York Congress, it was the East Coast Congress. And this, I'm pretty sure this was what it was. And we were doing it back then. And yeah, like I was nervous. I'm always nervous though. People ask me like, "Oh, do you still get nervous?" Like, of course. Like if you're not nervous, you're dead. Like you have to be nervous. That's adrenaline, right? The key is to like transfer that and channel it into energy and put that energy on the stage. But the nerves never quite go away. Maybe for some people they do. I'm jealous of those people, because for me they don't. I still get nervous to different degrees. But when you're performing at a congress for other pros and other people you respect, those are the highest nerves for sure.
Now,
And there were a lot of teams there that I respected a lot.
Okay. Now, yes, it was the East Coast Congress at one time, but I'm talking about the New York Salsa Congress at its height,
Yes.
when there are 3, 4, 5,000 people in the room. That's what I'm talking about.
Yep.
Not talking about before then. How I guess you were nervous, as you said, because you always get nervous.
Yeah, I was nervous. I think I remember one of the highlights of the New York Congress was when it was at the Roosevelt. I think I'm getting that right. The Roosevelt Hotel, and we performed the clowns. Well, I called it the clowns. The circus routine. And this was a routine. Darlin Garcia was on that team. He was on our team before he went on his own and did his own thing. He was one of our
Mm.
dancers. We've had a history of a lot of amazing dancers that some people don't know were members of Cultural Explosion at some point, and
Okay.
Darlin was one of them. And I love Darlin, another amazing, incredible dancer who I have mad respect for.
Mm-hmm.
And he was on our team for a couple years. Um, he was in that number. We did this like theme. We were all about themes about the circus, and this was one of Juan's ideas. Juan's got a crazy mind, but boy, some of these ideas are amazing. And at the time when he would say them to me, I would be like, "You're out of your mind. What the hell are you talking about?" And seriously, he'd have to convince me because he'd be like, "Trust me, this is gonna be cool," and it just sounded like so weird. But
Mhm.
I would trust him because I love the guy. So like,
Mhm.
sure, you want to be clowns and you want to do a Siamese twin. So two guys with one T-shirt, like one big body leading a girl, and then a threesome dance with one guy with two girls, and then at the end it had a threesome rueda, with one guy with two girls rotating. This
Uh-huh.
was insane, right?
Mhm.
We did this routine. I don't know how the hell we did this. It was crazy. Wearing these crazy clown costumes and purple hair. We looked nuts. Doing this routine at the New York Congress, I was extremely nervous because this is New York. Everybody's got their A game, glitzy ballroom dresses. They're doing like, mambo routines, like super like, and we're doing some clown thing looking like crazy people. I thought we were gonna look like fools. I kid you not, Juan, if you're listening, I love you, but I thought we were gonna look like fools. We go out there, we do this number, we got a standing ovation.
Wow.
And
Wow.
that was amazing because I thought, wow, like they appreciate the creativity. They appreciate the balls because it took balls to do that number and they enjoyed it. It was entertaining. Was it crazy? Yeah. But it was definitely entertaining. And you know what? New York gave us a lot of love that day. And I'll never forget it. I was terrified, but we got a standing O at the end.
Yes, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I'm going to ask you one more thing, and then we're going to wrap it up because I know you had a lot of things to do. What was your experience like attending the Copa back in the days?
Oh, what was my experience like? Wow. I always saw the Copa as a very inclusive place where like anybody can go and be accepted.
Hmm.
And you could see like an 80-year-old man with a line of women to dance with him
Right.
because it wasn't about how you looked or like what you were wearing or like how cool your moves were. It wasn't about that. It was about like your vibe. Like again, back to the energy and like people were really there to connect. I used to go a lot of times at their after work party. Like they had like a 6 p.m. thing. I don't know
Hmm.
if you remember that.
Oh
I
yeah.
used to, I used to go to that every now and then, and I would go, sometimes on the weekends too. And like, I loved that part about it. That everybody was willing to dance with everybody. You know what? Just to like really to narrow it down, it didn't feel like a clique.
Right. Okay.
And I think that one of the things that has hurt our dance community has been the cliques. And
Yes.
like, well, you don't do this style, so I'm not going to dance with you.
Right.
And, one of the things that Juan and I always believed in, and we still say it, and, I feel very strongly about it, is inclusivity. And like the whole on one and on two, is this better or that better? I think that's so silly. Like, you can have your choice. We all do what we prefer. We all have our preferences. But why do you have to talk trash on the other one? Like, who
Right.
said that that's, oh, that sucks? No, it doesn't. It doesn't suck. Like, what are you talking about? There's some incredible doesn't even begin to address the level of talent in the on one community. And of course, there's amazing, again, no words can cover the talent in the on two community. They're both amazing. They both have incredible artists. And there's no reason to be like, I'm not going to dance with you. do this, I'm not gonna do that. All this
Mm.
like the stuff they're doing, But just to say back with the culpa thing, you didn't have those clicks. So I think we need to get back to those times, or even not just the culpa, like the Stardust. That was a great night
Oh,
that we
wow.
had that. And just
Yeah.
back in the day, those socials that we had, it was a lot more of that vibe. Like we knew this person is from such and such school. Like you would see Art in Motion, you would see Culture Explosion. Whoever was there, all these different schools. Mike's school, a lot of
Right.
them was from Philly, of course, but like everybody was dancing together. Like we were
Yeah.
all friends. We're still friends to this day. We didn't like, oh no, we're not gonna dance with those people because they're with that school. That stuff is silly. So I think the instructors now need to promote more of that type of mentality to their students, is
Yes.
just to say like, dance with everybody, respect everybody. And this is what we dance for. We dance to escape stress, we dance to be happy, we dance to connect. So all the judgy stuff needs to go. Like I think we need to get back to like unity, and right now more than ever,
Hmm.
with what's going on in the world and so much hate and division and opinionated stuff, we need art more than ever, because it's one of the only things that's going to save us
Hmm.
from ourselves,
Wow.
because we are not in a good place with humanity. I don't want to get emotional.
That's all
it
right.
makes me, it makes me emotional.
Okay. Oh,
It does. It makes me very sad, the way the world is.
don't get emotional because then I'm going to get emotional.
It does. I can't stand it. Like the stuff that I see online, the hatred, the things that have been going on, so bad. And so we need this. We need dance. We need these things to be safe havens and not more division. Because
Right.
there's just too much. There's just too much. And like right now, the COVID stuff and everything that's going on with the political stuff and everything with the the racism, all these things, is like it's all coming to a head, and it needed
Right.
to, because
Right.
sometimes you need these things to happen for change to happen.
Yes.
But at the same time, like it's just bringing out a lot of ugly. So we
Yeah.
need a lot of light to
Uh-huh.
fight the ugly. And
Wow.
I think dance is one of those things, and I feel like as a dance community we need to really rally together and
Hmm.
not be so like, because I mean you see it, everyone listening or watching, you see it. People are attacking each other on social media. They get mad if somebody posts this or posts that. Oh, I'm gonna unfriend you, and and I get it. I get it that like it's very personal to people, but there's got to be a better way to like communicate and try to like work through it without so much anger, because there's just so much anger already, like
Yeah.
that we got to try to not add to it. And we need more positive things like this, like what you're doing, and trying to talk to people and get to know people and have
Right.
happy energy. Like these things are important, and I appreciate you for doing it and appreciate you for inviting me. And I
Oh.
hope if there's anything that is remembered from this interview, it's this, like that I want to encourage people to be a little more um, understanding and
Right.
compassionate with
Oh.
each other.
Well, Christina, this was such a pleasant interview. I We're gonna wrap this up because I portrayed this hard gangster image, and you
I'm
got
sorry. I'm sorry.
you
I'm
got so
crying.
emotional. I don't want to start crying on the interview.
I'm very emotional. People
No.
that let me know that I can't help it. I wear my heart on my sleeve, but I mean
Yeah.
it. I mean it. I mean it from the heart.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, young lady. I learned a lot about you. It was a very pleasant interview. You were very informative, and
Thank
thank you
you.
so much for giving me your time. And I hope you have a better day than you had earlier today. We had a rough day today, but
Oh God, it's been so rough. But listen, I want to thank you, and I do want to say to you, like on my behalf, as somebody that's known you for so long, and for so many people that have known you, just keep being you, because you're amazing. Like you really are. I'm not just saying that to you because you're here and you're interviewing
mhm,
me. Like I really think that. I think highly of you. Like you I've never been around you and not had like laughter. Like
Right.
something you've said or done has always made me laugh. I'm not the only one. Like it's what you do for people. And I know that people really value and appreciate that about you. Like it's really amazing, and you like I just want you to know that you're appreciated and we love you.
Thank you so much, Christina. I love you too. Tell your sister that I said hello and I asked about her.
I
Okay?
will. Oh my
All
god, I
right.
will. Thank you so much. Let's be
All
in
right.
touch.
Okay. Have a good day. Bye bye.
Bye.